Hi everybody, this is Steve Ludwig, host of Steve Ludwig's Classic Pop Culture and the Beatles Hour with Steve Ludwig at planetludwig.com. Here's an interview we did with Melanie Safka, on April 15th, 2014. It's from show number 36. To hear the entire show, check out the menu at planetludwig.com. And now, please enjoy the interview. And everyone, we all know who that was. We heard Beautiful People, Brand New Key, and from her latest CD, which is so spectacular, Ever Since You Never Heard of Me, the one and only legendary Melanie Safka. Melanie, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, I tell you,
I'm coming to Massachusetts. You're in Massachusetts, right?
Well, actually, my engineer, Rick, is. I'm in New Jersey. I'm on the East Coast. I actually saw you a couple of weeks ago at the NYC 50, the Beatle, the show you did at Town Hall.
Super. Yeah. That was great.
You know, Melanie.
Okay.
I was just going to say, when I hear the first two words of Beautiful People, I get goosebumps because it takes me right back. How does it seem to you standing up on stage, looking at people, and literally tears coming down from their eyes with some of your songs? It's got to be it's a rhetorical question, I suppose, but how do you feel?
Oh, God. You know, it's amazing how time has reinforced the sentiments that I meant to communicate in the first place. You know, it just reinforces it because so many people have had a life, you know, since they heard that song, and yet that a song like that can bring them right back to that place where there is no time, you know. So I'm grateful that I'm part of people's lives in that way, you know, that they've shared something with me. I've gotten to share lives with so many people that I used to think that my purpose was that I wanted to be of service in some way to mankind. You know, when I was in high school and later on, I wanted to be in the Peace Corps or maybe a social worker or something that was going to be of service. And I used to think of being a celebrity as a frivolous kind of occupation, you know, just what can I do, you know, to really help people as a person gets up in front of people and sings. But in my years of doing it, now I've kind of come to a realization that I am in the service industry.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I perform a service, you know, and I didn't realize it. I'm also grateful that I've gotten to continue to do it all these years, and sometimes very much out of high visibility, you know, that people don't even know I'm still alive, some of them. That's why the title, Ever Since You Never Heard of Me.
Yeah, I love the title, by the way, Melanie.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I may, the song that we led in with, I Tried to Die Young, if I may quote a couple of the lines from this song, it blew me away, but took a razor to the wrist of reality, hell-bent in my way toward futility. I got a reason to believe that it won't go on forever, but reason to the heart is a message unheard. Those lyrics, boy, your writing, it's so nice that... let's see, how could I put this? Some acts from the 60s, and God bless them, but, you know, that's pretty much where they leave their music. But, Melanie, you are as vital and as important musically as you've ever been, even more so, I think, with your experience now.
Yeah, well, it's you know, it's a burden to bear, believe it or not, that to have had hits at different times in history, and I have gotten... you know, identified with certain times, of course, because of Woodstock, you know, it's just typical, you know, or a hit, Brand New Key, you know, people just see me as that, and they you get frozen in a moment or in a song. But I've never stopped performing. I've never retired.
Mm-hmm.
I had 3 children, and I took them on the road. They all traveled with me. Again, I wasn't really the stuff of celebrity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a real introvert. My husband, Peter Shakarik, was the extrovert. He was the person who got me out there and made sure that I was at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And I was never good at it, nor did I want it. I was a very reluctant famous person. I was, if I could get out of the photo op, I would. And hence, I don't have that fabulous autobiography that so many people do. They were all about the photo op, and I was about running away from it. So I do have some photos, but only because my husband made sure I stood around for them. But mostly, I'm just not a high-profile person.
Melanie, you mentioned your husband Peter. Can we talk a bit about Melanie and the Record Man from 2012?
Yes,
Could you tell our listeners all about that, please?
Yeah, well, again, I really don't think there would have been a Melanie if there wasn't a Peter Shakarik. And Peter was the man I met when I was just beginning in New York, and I had just graduated acting school, and I only went to acting school because my father would not hear of me not going to any more education. He wanted me to go to another, a liberal arts college, he would not hear of me not going to school anymore. So
yeah, sure.
I actually ran away from home to prove the point that I wasn't going to go to school anymore, and we came to this compromise that I would go to acting school, and we agreed when he had to fly out to California to go fetch me. And on the way home, we discussed what I would do. And I would have thought, the first thing we thought about was music school, but I was never a trained musician. I didn't know theory. I didn't, know how to write or read music. And at that time, schools like, Juilliard or Berkeley were just traditional music schools where, everybody in there already knew how to read and write music.
Right.
So that wasn't an option, but it was still a performance art when we decided on the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. So I was in school. I had graduated that school, and I was sitting there with a diploma, but not the personality again to go out and audition. But there was this one audition that was being held for a play called Dark of the Moon, and they needed a girl who played the guitar and sang. And I took this as an omen that I was supposed to go for this part. So on pain of death, I went to this audition. I made myself do it because I sensed that I was supposed to be there. And through a sequence of events, I met my husband, who was a bigger-than-life, very charismatic, highly energetic, didn't worry about what people thought of him. He was just whatever came out of his mouth came. He was not a diplomat. He was not, careful about his presence. He was
spoke his mind,
flamboyant, and you got what it was what it was. So and I loved that about him. But he was again, he saw something in me that I didn't see. And he saw that I was going to become Melanie, and again, we were so odd. We were the original odd couple. I mean, he was a self-taught, street smart guy. He was a refugee. His parents came over as refugees, and they came to Ellis Island, and they were had to fight and scrape, and they lived that they believed in that American dream, and that's where my background was totally. I guess most everybody in my family was very left, and they were union. My uncle became vice president of the teachers union, and my grandmother was a ladies garment workers union person. It was always very, you don't show what you have. That the underlying philosophy is that you're cautious. It's the wheat that grows highest is always cut down. So you just don't show. You're not a showy person. My husband was the absolute opposite. He couldn't be any more opposite.
Talk about balancing one another, Melanie, right?
Loved everybody on my leftist side of the family as wrong, wrong. And I would always know it. Like he'd come into a room with my mom and my uncle and grandmother, and just say, guess what? Melanie's got a #1 record, isn't it? And everybody'd be kind of like, so?
Boy, bringing you right back down to earth, huh?
Right. Well, I mean, I had the luck and to live both worlds, and see both perspectives. And there was a lot of sanity with my husband because there was no nonsense. He came from a survival place, not a mental place. He came from a place where, this is what you do. And,
pretty concrete.
This is how you do it. And, I mean, I saw the point of both, so, but at first I was appalled, at his grandiose dreams about me, and of course my whole family hated him.
All the more reason to love him. All the more reason to love him, right?
But he was a definite dreamer of the whole dream of what happened to me career-wise and what I became, and he allowed me to create and not ever think about the business or creating, doing anything other than what I did was just writing and singing. And he wanted me to write a book, and I would always say, I can't get the order right. I've never, and then I wrote, kind of thing. And he said, just write it. And the last tour we went on together, he gave me a leather-bound journal, and he said, just start writing. Just put it in any kind of order. We'll worry about the order later. We'll fix it later, So, as was his way, just do it.
Right, sure.
And so I had this book, and on the road that particular tour, we were actually in Massachusetts. My husband passed away suddenly and without any warning. He dropped me off at a Whole Foods. We were in one of those,
the health foods place.
In places where you have a kitchen. So I was kind of stocking up for the week, and I was there, and I knew it was taking long, and something was nagging at me. I knew something was wrong, and a police car pulled up and told me, and took me to the hospital to identify. I mean, this is all and
Oh,
my
my
son was in
goodness.
the hotel room, and he was brought to the hospital separate from me, and he thought that we both died, and
Oh, my goodness.
I know it was absolutely unbelievable experience, but we both met at the hospital, and we saw it was Peter, and it's not real. It was so not real, but that night we felt we made contact with him. It was autumn. It was this beautiful wind in the air, and felt we could feel his presence. And I went up to my room and I looked at that book that he had given me, which was still empty, and I started to write. And I said, because this really isn't my story. This is our story. And I started. The first line was, "Sometimes you don't know you have a story until it has an end."
Oh, boy, what a way to start. Oh, what an opening. That's beautiful.
That's how the play starts, and then we go back and retrace our life together. Which, again, because we were so opposite, that's where it gets interesting.
Yeah. Well,
He was a total gambler. I mean, my first session was supposed to have been a recording session for a group, I think, called the Marshmallows.
okay.
He was a producer. Peter, was a producer before he met me, and he pretended, he pretended that it was the Marshmallow session, and he hired a full-out orchestra and arranger, and we did Beautiful People. And that was that original recording of Beautiful People.
Oh, boy.
And it was, I had a full-out, I couldn't believe, what is this? How could we be doing this? And, don't worry about it. Columbia will be really happy that they did this.
Yes, I'll say.
I mean, that was his style, whereas me, I would have, gotten permission from the right people, and it probably didn't turn down, but,
well,
his philosophy was, what is that? Saying, you ask for, you can ask permission or you can ask forgiveness. So,
well,
his way.
Melanie, I know you don't like the spotlight, but I'm going to read some stats to my listeners about your incredible continuing career. But everyone, Melanie was the first female performer to have 3 top 40 hits at the same time. She received Billboard's #1 Female Vocalist Award for 1972. She won an Emmy Award for the TV series Beauty and the Beast. Her songs have been covered from everyone by everyone from Nina Simone to Miley Cyrus, Dionne, Bjork, Martha Hoople, Cher, Dolly Parton, Macy Gray, the New Seekers, countless others. And as I mentioned at the top of the interview, Melanie's latest CD, Ever Since You Never Heard of Me, it's available at melaniesafka.com. And of course, everyone, SAFKA is Melanie's last name, Melanie Safka. Melanie, you mentioned about the writing the play, and just the liner notes of your CD of you, Ever Since You Never Heard of Me. You wrote such great liner notes. What about like a full-fledged book in this time?
Yeah,
I mean,
I have
book,
again. I wrote a book following my husband's passing, and it's.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that's what the play was based.
No, I didn't
mistake.
put it out as a book. We did it as a musical, and that was the avenue that opened up to me. But I have a book that I wrote that hasn't been published. I have it. It's but it's a different perspective. It's a story. It just happens to be a story about somebody who had a little bit of visibility and a career, has a career, keeping on, and but I think it's a story that would stand by itself, even if there weren't any famous songs in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I wrote this story of us. Now, my perspective on a book now, maybe I would, I'm not sure if you see, an autobiography would be an entirely different story than the one I wrote.
Yeah.
I wrote the story of Peter Shakarik had a dream, you know.
Yes, sure.
And I was it. And what I was going through when he was having this, you know, I mean, everybody would think that, wow, she's at the top of her form, you know, she must be having a great old time. And most of the time, I was just wishing to be home and make things and paint and create quietly without being the target. You know, because when you're a big celebrity like I was, you know, I'm a
still are,
one-name
Melanie.
artist, Melanie, and you know, I was the girl, you know, and I didn't realize. Again, I never considered myself very pretty. I thought of
Melanie, my goodness,
odd person.
Don't say that, Melanie.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, that was that background, you know, I was telling you about. So I always just thought of myself as awkward and not traditionally pretty, as in, you know, what I would see in magazines and stuff. So.
Melanie. Yeah, I can't tell you how many of my buddies and I had crushes on you. So anyway, I just shot you a theory to hell.
Nobody told me, you know, and Peter just scooped me up really quick, so I didn't know anything. So, but that really also was against people considering me worthy, you know, because you notice the women who became well known then were much more angular and angstful, and I was just, you know, too beatific, I guess. And
you're too hard on yourself, Melanie.
Yeah, no, yeah. People have told me that, including Peter. He always said you're way too hard on yourself. But I just, you know, it definitely did go against being promoted as a writer, because they didn't even have the term singer-songwriter yet. They used to call me the female Bob Dylan, because you know, songwriters were
absolutely
songwriters, and the people who sang them were those glitzy, pretty people, and you know, songwriter were those funny-looking people they kept in the back room, and usually, you know, they didn't present themselves in public much. So I really thought of myself as a singer, and I only wrote these songs because they expressed so deeply the things I felt, and I needed that they suited my voice too, because you know, I wrote them. So,
and what a distinctive voice, Melanie! Oh my goodness. As soon as I hear the word beautiful and beautiful people, that's Melanie. And I get goosebumps thinking about it. I read a great description of you, Melanie, a modern artist with an amazing past. I think that's a perfect description, because if people go to your website at melaniesofka.com, Melanie is, like I mentioned before, she is of today, and she is so vital today and all the things that are going on. May I ask you two quick questions, and then I want to ask you a question about Bo? Okay. Isle of Wight and Woodstock, which, in your mind, was the better to be at?
Wow, they were both incredible.
Or were they two different animals completely?
No. Actually, there was something similar. It wasn't quite as chaotic at the Isle of Wight, and it, you know, there was no rain beating down and making mud, and you know, and people were from all over Europe as well as England, but there were as many people there as there were at Woodstock, for sure. And I got to follow the Who at the Isle of Wight, which was I had made friends with Keith Moon. oddly enough. Keith Moon of all of the, I know, but he was such a
How
cool
was
guy.
he?
But
Yeah, I was going to say he was a cool guy, Keith Moon.
yeah, very cool. I mean, he was probably flirting with me, but I didn't know. I was always one of those who
Here
didn't
you go
know.
again.
But I didn't know. I didn't know. Yeah, he gave me his drumstick. Do you think that means something?
Yes, I think there's something there, Melanie. It's a shame he's not
but
with us.
no. But so he introduced me at the Isle of Wight because they had just nobody wanted to follow the Who. The Who was presenting Tommy for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
This was the most mega production I had ever witnessed with pyrotechnics and all kinds of effects and things, and Roger Daltrey with his beautiful hair, and
and Keith with his drumstick,
and Keith with his drumsticks, and so people, no one wanted to follow the Who. Jim Morrison absolutely refused. He was supposed to follow the Who, but they asked me, and I said yes.
Mm-hmm.
And God knows why I said yes, but okay.
Because you were tougher than all the guys, Melanie. You were tougher than all the rest of them. That's why.
Well, maybe that's what it was, but the reality of having to do it and having said yes are two different things. So I was terrified. I mean, it took hours to get their stuff off the stage, and by the time I was going to go on, it was dawn. But again, Keith Moon got on stage and the hero, and he announced that I was going to be on, and a few heads woke up. And everybody had gone to sleep.
If Keith Moon says you're good, then if Keith Moon says you're okay, then you're okay, right?
I sang a few songs, and I watched heads pop up, in the field, like balloons, little balloons, and when I left that stage, I had 3 top 10 records in all over Europe.
Well, let's see. They had to be, I guess, Beautiful People, Brand New Key, and Lay Down was too new, wasn't it? No, maybe Lay Down.
No, I don't think it was. I'm not sure which one. I think it was Look What They've Done to My Song, Ma.
Yeah.
And it could have been, but I also had songs that were hits in Europe that were known here.
Mm-hmm.
There was one called Bobo's Party that was a big hit in France, and a Nickel song was a really big hit
of course, a Nickel song. Yeah, sure. What's wrong with me?
And Ruby Tuesday. I think Ruby Tuesday.
Oh my gosh, Melanie. Yeah, boy, all the hits.
It was a bigger hit there than it was in the States. But again, I'm not sure. But I'm bad at that. That's why I didn't think I was a good candidate to write the book. But if I would say Woodstock was more traumatic for me because I wasn't as experienced. Not that I was super experienced at Isle of Wight, but I had one festival under my belt. That was Woodstock. Right. And it's funny that Jimi Hendrix was at both Woodstock and the Isle of Wight, and Isle of Wight was his last.
What are your memories of Jimi Hendrix? Nice guy, quiet.
He was quiet. We shared a plane ride back from England to New York, and all through the flight we were in first class, and all through the flight it was this strange time with them against us. The corporate types and the uniform.
Yeah, I can imagine. Sure.
Hippies with the long hair, and it was like we were wearing our uniforms,
Right. Yeah.
So there were these businessmen who, as they kept getting drunker and drunker, were making these little snide remarks about different things, and I was getting really furious. And Jimi Hendrix was just, oh, don't worry about it. It's cool. Don't worry about it. So we just talked and talked about music, and he he was really influenced by Appalachian music because I told him the music that I listened to when I was growing up, and it was just mostly it was a lot of Appalachian music, and
Mm-hmm.
he knew some of the same songs that I knew, and yeah, he was super cool to the point where right before we got off the plane, he said, "When you go through customs, don't go anywhere near me."
Looking out for you.
Yeah, yeah.
That's funny.
Oh,
Melanie,
because customs was such a ritual, because they're always, they're waiting for the drugs to come in.
yeah, of course, right. And he was nice enough to tell you, stay away from me.
You don't want to be going through customs with me.
Oh, that's a great one. Melanie, I saw, like I mentioned, I saw you a couple of weeks ago in New York, and I actually saw you a few years ago at Hippie Fest. And your son, Bo, I know all three of your children are musical, but your son, Bo, I mean, you ain't too bad yourself on the guitar, but he is some guitar player.
Oh, he's a real guitarist.
Did you teach him?
He's played all over the world. Well, I taught him 3 chords.
Mm-hmm.
He just took it and ran. He's played concert guitar all over the world solo. And he's it's just really I'm in awe. I don't know he's completely self-taught, which is the other phenomenal thing.
Wow.
That he's a counterpoint person. He that's why it's so much fun to write with him, because my melodies are very harmonic and simple, but he hears all these counterpoints, and it just expands the melody. So, I mean, we've been working together as co-writers for a while, and he's just, but what he adds to the music is just beyond what I could describe, and he as my band, he is my band. He is a full-out band. I mean,
it is something to be experienced. Oh my goodness, are you ever so right about that? I don't want to forget your 2 other children. They're musical as well. Would you tell us about
my girls? The girls, they were the ones who went on the road with me. I just they were, and Bo too, of course. He went on the road with me, but somehow I think they had a harder life. That I think they had a little more of the classic rock star person's children's life. They were left home. They were left behind. They had to spend birthdays away from mom, and different. It was a harder road for them. But they loved music, and they would always, like when we were in the studio, they would play. They were in the recording studio. They would be the engineer, and they would be the singer, and they would take turns changing roles, and it was just in them. They always made up songs, and they always sang together, and when we all sing together, we're like a full-out chorus,
I can imagine. Oh my gosh,
but,
yeah.
Life, everybody has their life. And Jordy's in Arizona. She plays out almost every night. And Layla is in Tennessee, right near me. She writes. She's a writer. She writes with different people, and she's in that Nashville writing thing. And I'm just, I mean, my dream is that we could all go on the road together. That would be.
Would that be wonderful, boy? Yeah. Yeah. Well, Melanie, I have to tell you, through your music, I have loved you through your lyrics since the 60s. I'm a child of the 60s myself, and I cannot thank you enough. I can't even articulate to you what it's meant to talk to you and for you to give me some time tonight. I wanted to say goodbye to you with another song from Ever Since You Never Heard of Me. Working Legend, which to me, I know it's about Johnny Cash, but boy, it perfectly fits you as well. Can you tell us, can you lead us into the song and tell us about Working Legend?
Yeah, well, it is about me, and I just used Johnny Cash as a way to put that across, because I think he had
can't fool me, Melanie.
that sort of maverick thing, going, and he went against so much of what was supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
and that is why he's as vital now as he was, when he was in his prime.
Mm-hmm.
I made up all that stuff, but I want to tell you, in the recording we used his voice. Bo got recordings of the original TV shows, and
yes,
we used Johnny Cash's intro to me from that show in the record. So when you're listening, it is Johnny Cash speaking and introducing me. So I just did Johnny Cash's birthday tribute down here in Nashville at the Johnny Cash Museum, and I got to meet the rest of the Cash family, and it was quite an honor. Yeah.
I was going to say, this is a rhetorical question, but he must have been an amazing man, right? I mean, the whole family, the whole.
Yeah, well, he was a quiet person. He wasn't he wasn't the one out there cracking jokes. And,
yeah.
I mean, maybe with his band he did, but he wasn't like he was a quiet person. He really was a quiet person, and but he apparently really thought something. I was on the show twice.
Yeah,
so,
there's a couple. People can see it on YouTube, Melanie. Yeah, there's a couple clips on YouTube of you on the show. Yeah. Yeah.
So he really. I felt. I didn't even know that country was. I was a New Yorker, so I didn't know anything about country music. So when I first got asked to go on, I'm thinking, what am I going to do there? But really, a lot of my music does have a country, or at least Americana, lilt to it. Although the Americana community hasn't quite embraced me, I kind of invented Americana. I don't know what that means exactly, because I don't really know what Americana means, but I know
it's ever changing. I'm sure.
It can't pass for pop.
Let's throw it under the Americana umbrella.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Melanie,
so,
I just wanted to say thank you so much. I like I said just a couple of minutes ago, I can't. I could never imagine in the '60s that I'd be speaking to you in person, and it has been such a pleasure and a privilege to speak with you, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Steve. That's great.
Okay, bye, Melanie. It's been a pleasure.
All right.
He is just a working legend, and it takes up all his nights. He's given up on happy endings, but not without a fight. He propped himself up on jagged edges, fell into the dark abyss, and he lived for love, he cried for love, he died for love and lived. Yeah, he lived for love, he cried for love, he died for love and lived. He loved with wild abandon. He was careless with his life. He had to lose more than one heartache if he was to survive. On that night he stood stage center.
Thank you very much.
He still had it all together, and he's still here. He's the proof, pass it on. Gotta get through before you're done. He died for love and lived. On that night he played the rhyming when everyone but me had gone. In that darkened room I heard him sing when he thought he was alone. He sang, don't you be afraid to love, don't you be afraid to give, 'cause first you live for love, you cried for love, you died for love and live. Yes, he lived for love, he cried for love, he died for love and lived. And I live for love, live for love, cried for love, I died for love and lived.
Oh, thank you. You sure are fine tonight.
I'm still here.
That's real good. Hey, what's the name of that song?
Working legend Johnny, and I wrote it for you.
Beautiful voice. Melanie!
Look what they done to my song, Lord. Look what they done to my song. Well, it's the only thing that I could do half right, and it's turning out all wrong, Ma. Look what they done to my song. Look what they done to my brain, Ma. Look what they done to my brain. Well, they picked it like a chicken bone, and I think I'm half insane, Ma. Look what they done to my soul. I wish I could find a good book to live in. Wish I could find a good book. Well, if I could find a real good book, I'd never have to come out and look at what they've done to my soul. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Look at what they done to my song. But maybe it'll all be alright. Maybe it'll all be okay. Well, if the people are buying tears, I'll be rich someday, Ma. Look what they done to my soul. Ils ont changé ma chanson, Ma. Et ce n'est pas bon, Ma. Ils ont changé ma chanson. Look what they've done to my song. Look what they've done to my song, Ma. Well, they tied it up in a plastic bag, turned it upside down, Ma. Look at what they done to my soul. Ils ont changé ma chanson.